If folks aren't speaking, try to remember to mute. Hearing a lot of feedback.
I'm not muted, so.
Hold on, mine froze.
Hey, Jess, you made it.
I can't mute myself. It like froze.
Okay. After the second siren, we'll go ahead and start. Is everybody ready? All right, I'm going to open with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Fiscal Officer, can you call the roll?
Trustee Sierra, Trustee Sword, Trustee Jesberger. I'll wave.
Yeah.
Township Administrator. Chief of Fire. Chief of Police. Superintendent of Roads. And I think that's everyone.
Now I'm here with you, so bear with me. Our next meeting will be Wednesday, November 18th, 2020 at 12 p.m. I'm going to make a motion to accept the agenda with flexibility.
I'll second.
Trustee Sierra, Trustee Jesberger, Trustee Sword.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion to approve the bill.
I'll second.
Trustee Jesberger, Trustee Sierra, Trustee Sword.
Yes.
Yes. Did we lose you, Jeff?
What?
I think we lost Jeff.
Oh.
Should I move on? I'm going to make a motion to approve payroll.
I will second.
Trustee Jesberger, Trustee Sierra, Trustee Sword.
Yes.
Yes. I think we officially lost Jess.
She's texting both of us, and she's not sure what to do next. I just suggested she maybe leave and come back, or check her signal, or reboot. So hopefully we'll see her in a couple minutes. These days.
I know. Do you guys want to wait to go down, or do you want to approve the meeting minutes? Are you okay with that, Jane, or do you want to wait for Jess?
I'm fine with it. I mean, we can hold a meeting with 2 trustees if we need to, so.
Sure. So I am going to make a motion to approve the October 7th, 2020 meeting minutes.
And I will second. And I also had an item to discuss with Chief Jones on that one. In the 10-7 minutes under police, there's an area where and I apologize, I don't have the exact hard copy in front of me now, but there's an area there where it talks about the completion of some recent trainings in the Blue and Gold Academy. Chief, you've been doing some really great work there, and I'd love to add something there about what those trainings were. You know, the social justice related, on implicit bias, de-escalation. Do I have that right?
Yes, that's correct. I thought I'm getting some feedback there. That I had talked to the board about that previously. I know we brought it up, and I did get your email on that late this afternoon. I was trying to get our stats put together. But yeah, if we could have something of that put into the minutes or maybe even on our Facebook page, that would be great.
So that was my only addition.
Okay. I'm ready for the roll.
Trustee Sierra, trustee Sword.
Yes.
Going to make a motion to approve the October 21st, 2020 meeting minute.
Second?
Ready for the roll.
Trustee Sierra, trustee Sword.
Yes. Mr. Hoffman, as host, do you have any indication? Trustee Jessberger says it's trying to let me in the meeting. Do you have any admittance button or anything like that on your side?
I do not see her
Okay.
any under participants or
As long as she has the link, it should just bring her straight into the meeting.
Right,
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
I'm not seeing anywhere that would show me anyone waiting to get in.
In that case, so Trustee Sword, I'm going to just suggest that we leave number 10 alone for now when you get to it, and until we have the three of us together.
perfect. That was a question. So we'll move on to number 9 for the approval of the September fiscal report. Make a motion to approve the September fiscal report.
And I second.
Okay, September 1st, we had $6,050,607.82. Revenue in the month of September, which included second half real estate, and I think it included a COVID fund deposit. Revenue in the month of September was $1,494,328.85. Expenditures in the month of September was $339,769.32, leaving us with a fund balance on September 30th of $7,206,167.35. Ready for the roll call then?
I am.
Okay, trustee Sierra, trustee Sword.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, we're going to skip over number 10 and move on to the presentation for the branding proposal presented by Marie and Stephanie Tresso of Murphy Yepsen.
Yes, okay. Thank you so much. We are very honored and appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today. I'm Marie Keister, and I'm president and CEO of Murphy Yepsen. And, oh, I'm so delighted Jess has made it in. And Matt, can you share your screen? Or do you need us to with the presentation? You're on mute, Matt.
Technology, I tell you. I emailed the presentation to the trustees. And truthfully, I'm not sure how I would share that.
That's okay. We'll go.
I
Go ahead.
apologize.
I was going to say we'll just refer to each slide as we go. Does that work?
I have them printed out. I could probably hold them up in front of
Marie, I have the share menu at the top of my window. Do you all?
Let me see.
Yeah.
Yes.
If one of you has it up, feel free to share. It's just share and then content, and then you can choose which window on your computer to share.
Okay.
If you like.
Yeah. Do
you have it, Marie, or do you want me to pull it up?
I just hit it. I just clicked it.
There we go.
Okay.
Yay. Okay. Let me just put it in slide show. Okay. There you go. Can you see it okay then? You can all see the presentation?
It looks good.
Yes.
Great. I know it's got, I'm a little wary of changing my display settings, so you're going to get a little preview of the next slide as we go along. So anyway, we're here to talk about potentially developing a new or refreshed brand and community identity for Clinton Township. And so I've already introduced myself, but I want to tell you who else is with us here. And so Stephanie Tresso is who would be your senior account manager, who will walk us through what we have proposed for you in just a second. Erin Hanna is with us. She is an art director for Murphy Epson, and she has done a lot of brand work around the community. You may recognize some of the brand work she's done. And then Tim Bates is not with us today. And we just want to show we really do have diversity of staff, and there's old people like me, and then we have young people like Tim too. So we run the gamut. And we have been in Central Ohio and Columbus for 30 years. Now, between all of us, we have many, many more years of experience than that. I alone have 35 years of experience, but we really are known for being branding experts, and particularly in the public sector arena. We have done so much work with infrastructure and public policy, and we have just tons of engagement experience. So because of that, we bring a strategic approach to what we do. We have long-term client relationships because we deliver. We like to believe that. And as I said earlier, we run the gamut from that energetic young professional team to us old folks, you know, the highly skilled senior staff who've been around a long time. And so I'm going to introduce Stephanie as one of our very wise, highly skilled senior staff. Not choose other words. But Stephanie, just let me know. I will turn to you. You tell me when you want me to advance the slides.
Sure. Thanks, Marie. So good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, and we really appreciate the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you, give you a little bit of an overview, and to talk a little bit about both our credentials and a little bit about the process that, if you chose to move forward, that we would take for this process. So we think of it as sort of a 1, 2, 3 step process for creating a new brand or an identity for the township. So the first step, high level overview, is listen and discover. So we need to get ourselves up to speed and do a deep dive into both what you as the trustees and the other leadership in the township want, and see in terms of how that refreshed look and feel and brand would look like. then we would, and also we want to make sure that we hear from and talk to both businesses and residents, of course, in the township. Then we would do some research and reach out to the residents and the businesses as well as the township leadership. And then we'd create and implement this new brand for you. And so with that, talking through what we also had in the proposal. So first, getting ourselves a little bit up to speed. I'm relatively familiar with the township, living in the Harrison West neighborhood, so just nearby in the city of Columbus. I shop at the Target Lenox on a regular basis. We branded and launched Metro High School way back in the day, and so I've lived in this neighborhood 30 years. So I know a little bit more with the western portion of the township, but I'm also familiar with the eastern portion as well. So, but we want to make sure that we are up to speed, talking about opportunities, issues, confirming what the goals are. We're going to take concurrently with that with a formal discovery session that we would have with a guided agenda to talk things through. We'd also take a look at your existing materials, see what you have, what you like about them, what you don't like about them. If there's some materials on your wish list, if there's some other community who you think does their look and feel and branding really well that you like, we would talk about that too. Confirm our audiences, confirm those other stakeholders. I've mentioned a few of them as well, and really build that all-in atmosphere to get ourselves up to speed in that first phase of the process. Oh, and I should mention, I was going to take questions at the end, but if you have a burning question, please feel free to interrupt me. I know as I get older, if I don't write it down and I have to wait until the end, it may not always stay with me. So feel free to do that as well. So then the second portion of the plan would be to do our research and our community engagement. So we'd identify some key stakeholders, which would be a combination of the leadership, residents, and some businesses in the township, to get them to think about, and these questions might sound a little quirky, but they actually do help us in creating the brand in terms of sort of what are those attributes, when you think of Clinton Township, what is it that you see? What is it that you think about? And those kinds of questions, which really help to identify what we call the brand attributes. It's sort of to help make real what the township is, both visually and then also how we would then apply that and implement it out with a logo mark as well. So we would do these stakeholder interviews, we would have agendas, we would take notes, you would get all that information. We were sensitive to budget. So one of the things that we talked about in the proposal, but that we did not price out, but we could certainly add back in, is an email survey of residents and businesses. So we think that that's an important component as well. And we've done those with both other community branding efforts and then just broadly, as Marie touched on, with our depth of experience with engagement. It would likely be an online survey, but we could put paper copies of it, as we noted, at the township's administration office, and it could go other places in terms of where folks are going. With COVID, that's probably going to be grocery stores, maybe the library. At most. I know that in the past, with other things, libraries are great partners especially with that community information. I have school age kids, and I know when I was going just recently, when I've been going to the library to pick up books, they're like, would you like the League of Women Voters voter guide? So clearly, the libraries are willing to help us get that information out as well. And then finally, we would review and distill all of this and use the comments and the feedback that we've received to help us create what that brand mark and identity is going to look like. So then phase 3 of our process is the first step would to create that logo for the township. So that would be then used and could be included everywhere, and from everything from the trucks that the service department uses to the sign on the building, as well as business cards and letterhead on your email signatures on the website. We'd also create a positioning statement, which is just which is sort of like an elevator speech in terms of putting words to that visual. So when you look at it, what is it? What does that say? What's the rationale, and why did we choose the things that we did in terms of the typography and the colors, and if there's any graphic mark that might be with it, if it's a tree. An example might be to compare it to are the arches that are on a logo with the arches that are in the short north. So it could be a geographic reference. So those items would be included in that positioning statement. And then finally, we'd give you a how-to, so a brand standards guide. So this would include the information about how you would then apply it and use the new logo mark on the materials as you're then moving forward with updating. Because we know, quite frankly, you're not going to throw everything out and, print everything or do everything brand new from the get-go. It's probably going to be a phased process. And so the brand standards guide will help you as you are moving forward in that implementation process. Okay, next slide. So we know that every community is unique and every brand is unique. And so we wanted to just show you first some examples of a broad range of logos and branding that we've done for all kinds of organizations, public sector and private sector and nonprofit. And we'll do a little bit of a deeper dive on a few of these examples here in just a moment. Next slide.
And let me ask, Stephanie, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we want to be sensitive to your time. And so we were going to dig in a little bit deeper on a few examples. Are you comfortable with that approach? And then we would open it up for questions. Okay, nobody seems like, stop. Okay, so we'll keep going. All right, Stephanie.
Okay, thanks, Marie. So one of the items that I talked about was the brand standards guide. This is just a one page from a brand standards guide that we created when we did the branding work for Finance Fund, which is a nonprofit bank. And so you can see here on the left side are the logo marks. Up top, you see the green and the dark charcoal. So those are their primary colors. And then there are some secondary colors that were also selected to use. So this is just one example of one page of what the brand standards guide would look like that we'd create for you. And Erin Hanna, who you met at the front end, is going to talk just a little bit more about this and about a couple other of the examples that we've got to share with you here today.
Yes. So hello, everyone. Nice to meet you again. I am Erin Hanna. I'm an art director at Murphy Epson. I've had a lot of experience with designing community branding there. I've been there about 8 years now. Maria, would you go back to do you mind going back to the Finance Fund one? Thank you. So this, as Stephanie mentioned, is a page from Finance Fund's Brand Standards Guide. But just to give more context around this project, it was a actual rebrand. So instead of just refreshing their look or using their existing branding and just kind of modifying it, we actually overhauled their entire brand and all of their marketing collateral that went with it. So we kind of discovered we did several branding and discovery sessions with their Finance Fund board members and discovered that their existing logo and brand did not match at all with how they talked about themselves. They talked about themselves as inspirational and community driven, but their logo was a very dark, kind of muted color palette. It felt very traditional, very conservative when they were doing this really innovative work in the community. So we refreshed or redesigned the brand to have a much more contemporary aesthetic. And it was supposed to represent two abstract Fs for the Fs in Finance Fund, but it also, the square in the little white square in the center of the bigger square was supposed to represent the communities and the businesses that Finance Fund supported. We chose a much more vibrant color palette. The bright green is their main color. But as Stephanie had mentioned, they have secondary colors that they can then use to create some diversity in their brand. The typography is very modern, yet it also has like a friendly feel. It's a cross between a serif and a sans serif font, which made it also kind of unique. And we even chose a softer gray for the Finance Fund itself typography instead of like a harsh black to also have a warmer, more community-oriented feel. And then after this logo was approved, we, as Stephanie had mentioned, designed the brand standards guide so that they could then take the brand and implement it on their own a little bit. But we also designed their website, their stationery suite, marketing materials, and signage throughout their building. Get the next one. You can move to the next slide, Marie.
Yeah, sorry, it was slow.
Oh, it's okay. And this is the Keep Powell Moving campaign. So this example shows a brand that we just developed from scratch versus where Finance Fund had an existing logo that we then had to use information from that existing logo and revise it. The Keep Powell Moving campaign was a brand new campaign. And it also was a sub-brand to the city of Powell. So we had to keep in mind the city of Powell's branding when creating it. So we stuck with their color palette, and used a lot of nods from their brand standards guide. But we also wanted to make it unique so it would stand out as its own individual campaign. And through discovery sessions with them as well, we learned that they thought of themselves as warm and inviting, but also a little bit had a modern edge, that their like downtown area was very charming and it also was trendy. So we wanted to show that in the mark. That's why you see the mix of the kind of friendly community feel script font with then a more modern font. The circle itself was supposed to represent inclusiveness and community. And then after the logo was approved, we developed a brand standards guide for them as well, a social media toolkit, imagery that went with the social media toolkit, some tip cards, fact sheets, public media materials. And then they used the brand standards guide that we presented them with to put the Keep Powell Moving mark on signage throughout the city. And then the last one I'll go into detail about was Go Westerville, and it is similar to the Keep Powell Moving project. It's also a sub-brand to the city of Westerville. So we used the city of Westerville's branding to create it, the similar color palette, similar typography, but also wanted to make it its own unique campaign. And the campaign connected road users to important information to help them navigate during construction. So that's why you'll see the dotted road line to show the road, also the arrow to show movement, and it had a very simple, clean typography. And then again, once this was approved, we designed their brochure, some fact sheets, a website that had an interactive map that showed current and upcoming construction projects. And then next, there's just a couple different branding projects that we worked on that Marie was just going to kind of click through quickly for the sake of time. And I'll hand it back to Stephanie.
Thank you. All right. Well, thanks, Erin. We appreciate it. So we pride ourselves on being hands-on and really digging in so that as you can see by some of the things that Erin mentioned, in terms of really getting to know the community for the project that we're working on. So we listen to what you say, and I think that is played out in a lot of the marks and the pieces that you saw, getting to know you like we talked about. So things like, is it warm? Is it friendly? Is it inviting? What that might be. So working really hard to make sure that we get to know you and then to deliver for you what you and what the community wants. So we want to hear from you. We want to hear from the community. That includes, like I said, the residents and the businesses, and then to move forward creating this updated brand for you guys and the identity for the township. And so let's see, the next slide is, are there any questions that anybody has for us?
Sure, I can start the ball rolling there a little bit. First of all, thank you for being here today, and I do appreciate your thoughtfulness about method and about outreach, especially in these times. I did want to just sort of put it out there that I think it's going to be a little bit difficult to get the kind of stakeholder engagement that we all might wish for. You touched on an email piece, which was something I noticed as I was looking through your proposal and the kind of materials that Matt had provided us to earlier. And there's no database in the township of email addresses. So that piece is going to be difficult. I think with the survey would have to go more like you were outlining with hard copy and trying to get that places. So
okay,
that piece just might be a little bit difficult, but I still appreciate it. And also in your proposal, there's a piece there about, perhaps an additional proposal that could be forthcoming about creating different sorts of artwork for us for email signatures and I want to add website to the list and et cetera. And I would say for me that I would be interested in taking a look at that proposal in the future as well. I don't think we want to just design something and then not have, immediate applications for it. So for my part, I would like to take a look at that in the future. And also I noticed that there was a budget permitting piece about some qualitative research. Can you address that for me a little bit more?
Sure. The qualitative research was the email survey.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay.
I should have been, yes.
No worries.
To your
okay.
point, just to follow up with, since there's not a database of emails, I know you guys have a pretty robust Facebook page. And so,
right.
So, oops, everybody went to like
the nice thing internally, I'm actually looking forward to some of those initial conversations, assuming we're going to move forward here, because the nice thing is that internally, having gone through our construction process and website redesign in the last just handful of years, that we've kind of had to take a look at just some things towards use of color and design elements that we wanted to carry through and certain aspects like that. So I'm excited. And I'm done. Other trustees.
I'm excited
Thank
too.
you.
I think there are a couple ideas I have to get around maybe getting the word out. We have our produce market that we can get resident word out if we get some flyers going, things like that. Some of the business partnership in the area with that produce market as well might be an inlet for helping spread the word a little bit too.
I just want to chime in that we should consider snail mailing. Of course, snail mail is expensive, but we could snail mail one survey per household and allow folks to come drop those back off to try to avoid the send it back postage. So there's a lot of ways to consider doing outreach. I don't make decisions. I'm not a board member, but I love surveys. So I just wanted to chime that in.
Thank you.
Fair enough. Surveys are good. I agree.
Well, and if you do a postcard, that costs a little bit less. So, I mean, to that point of balance costs of reaching folks. So with the snail mail, but this is kind of helpful.
Yeah, Stephanie froze there a little bit. Looks like she might be having problems with her link. But I think she was trying to say you could alert people via postcard and drive them to a website to take the survey, or you could also have them the survey in there. You're back, Stephanie.
We have a pretty high senior population, so I'm also personally a big fan of the internet, but as much as we can with our newsletters, we print in large font, and so I'm going down rabbit holes that we don't need to take everybody's time up, but I really like this presentation and idea.
It's very helpful context.
And that's, so many of the things you're saying is exactly the type of stuff we would get out on that discovery session. What tools you already have, how we could even break up the work so that you can make our budget go as far as possible. If it's easy for you to stick something in the mail, we produce it for you, but that's in your budget to actually mail it, stuff like that. We can work that through.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much for your time. We'll let you go, right?
Yep. We'll let you go. Yep. We'll sign off. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
We appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We'll be in touch. All right. You guys want to go back to number 10 now that we have Jess here?
Sure. I asked her that item. In conversation with Jim Shimmer from county. In talking about some leadership on their part for economic development and thinking about working together, the question came up, and I'll provide the historical context in just a second here. But the question came up about, basically what is the comfort level of the board with the county in terms of how much leadership they exert over the process, how much leadership we need to exert over the process in order to keep that partnership happy for everyone. You might remember Trustee Sword when we were working with them on the Kroger anchor store issue. There was a moment there where the county sort of just went ahead and published something. We were all kind of working together, and then they had the capacity to do it, and they did it, basically. And we were a little taken aback in that moment that we weren't just a little bit more of a part of that, I think. And that, and so I think that's where that comes from for him, is just to not sort of repeat another mistake or get into anything awkward. I felt like I could probably answer his question at the time, but I thought it would just be helpful to hear from the board just in general terms. I mean, I personally believe we know what we want, but we don't have the capacity to do the kinds of things that the county does with an entire department. I mean, Matt's very qualified, and he's got a lot of expertise in the area of economic development, but he's not going to be able to dive in the way an entire county department might be able to on our behalf. So finding that midline, and I guess I just wanted to hear the two of you talk about it a little bit, and then I can talk to Jim a little bit more about it. But it's just to get a feel for how you feel about working with other entities. And the county may not be the only thing. I mean, we've already talked about COCIC and some potential.
I'm totally okay. As long as there's a good line of communication before things kind of go out on both sides, us and whoever else it may be, so that we're not caught off guard or surprised, especially if we're working together on something that is still in work, but maybe not, and then gets just put out. I think communication is going to be bottom line there. That's going to be the golden ticket for me.
For me, I was just about, I think I tend to frame it as, like partnership, like we need them for the capacity and the ability to move us forward and the ability to organize things, and certainly for some content knowledge and such like that. But when it comes to the decision point, that's the partnership piece that I always want to make sure stays in the loop of the process.
Absolutely. Anything else?
Trustee Jesberger or Mr. Huffman, anything anybody else wants to add to this?
I think it'd be helpful to have more individuals who have the expertise involved to assist the township. Obviously, keeping control over everything locally, but having additional support is, I think, very helpful.
I think that's probably fine. I just didn't want to be in a position of one trustee answering his question. I felt like the spirit of this conversation was going to go exactly this way. And so now I can say we've had that conversation. That's probably fine.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Anybody else have anything? Good. All right. We are Going to move to committee team reports. Looks like Community Support Committee is listed under there.
Yep, I can address that. So last week I met with both of the chiefs and Matt to talk about different ideas that we could do with this. And it sounds like, and Chief Fraley, you can jump in if I'm not saying it correctly, but Franklin County has community health workers, I think is what they're called. And they take referrals from individuals in the community. So like Chief Fraley can make a referral on a resident where there might have just been a run. And then they would be assigned a case manager type person. And then that person would follow that resident for the time being. So I know that we've already made one referral. Chief Fraley is following up on that. I think that it would probably still be a good idea if we continue to look at potentially hiring someone for those individuals that may need more one-on-one services instead of something where they get linked and then a month later they're good. So someone who would be able to follow them through from start to finish to address any of the needs that we have in the community. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, on the part for the police side of things, I haven't spoken with Trustee Jesberger yet because I just had this conversation a little bit ago before our meeting. Sergeant Blacker from the Franklin County Sheriff's Office is kind of the lead person for the CID program that works with Advocate and Netcare here in Franklin County. He was able to get me kind of a run comparison. So from May 1st to the end of September, we've utilized that resource 61 times here in Clinton Township. So we're looking to maybe do a collaboration with his unit. They're going to be adding more people and some more outreach with Netcare and the deputies to where we may be able to join in on that program or have joint assistance with them for the mental health and the overdose aspect on the runs that we take, kind of in collaboration with the CARES program from Franklin County Health that we can incorporate with fire as well. So if the medics respond to an overdose and police are not on scene, we could have that resource available, I believe, for the medics as well.
So yeah, just to add to that, I think the CARES program through Franklin County with both the community health worker and the mental health and addiction side of things can prove to be quite helpful for us. We did refer one resident, and just while we've been in the meeting, Jessica, I just had feedback that they had made contact and that was taken care of. So our thought was to try to have a couple of those referrals with the CARE program and see how that processed. And first one is complete, went pretty good. So that's where we are right now, and trying to probably have another meeting with us, I guess, and talk about maybe doing some more referrals with them just to see how that program goes.
And the individuals that are the community health workers, I was just looking back through my notes. These individuals typically have 10 or more years experience working in this type of setting. They are certified through Ohio State. And my understanding was the contact would be once a month, either face-to-face or phone call. They actually help the individual create a goals and success plan. And they are multi-system allowed. So that individual, that community health worker could be working with other agencies to help still facilitate where that resident needs to go.
And how do we know how long they'll follow that individual, or is it all based on how the individual is doing? upon evaluation.
If I remember correctly, it seems to be maybe like a couple months, because they just try to get the resident what they need at that time and then the follow through. I'm sure that they've probably had individuals for quite some time, but I would manage to say that it was probably based upon the level of need from that resident.
They did discuss something about pathways, that they would work with the resident to set up a path for them to go from beginning to end and follow them through that path to help assist that they've reached the goal that they discussed early on.
And to continue with that, the pathways could be something that would take 2 weeks to graduate from, is the term they used. And they did say they had some that were in there for up to 2 years. So they would continue that contact until that need was met.
That's great.
Forgive me, everybody. I was up far too late and far too early. I'm a little confused. Are we now saying that there are county services that exist to fill the kind of need that we were looking for?
So yes, Franklin County is very rich with resources. But you have to look at each resident on an individual basis, because you can't take a cookie cutter approach to addiction, mental health issues with the elderly. So while we can use these services, and this is why we're trying it on just a couple referrals right now to see how things work out, I think the need for someone specifically in our township is high, because those individuals can still work with that person to keep going, so then they have that support.
Okay.
I think another thing I'd like to add as well, I had a meeting last week with some folks out of Trustee Jesberger's office in Franklin County Juvenile, but we are looking at it's called the PID program. It's a Police Intervention Diversion Program. And that also, with some of the youth that we have in the community that we kind of have issues with, they also do outreach with the other programs in Franklin County that would assist with kind of family issues or parenting issues. So it's not just an approach to the criminal justice side of what we do. It's also helping get services, maybe if a family is in some kind of crisis, the juveniles acting out, that we kind of have that or outside agency cooperation with other places as well for our juvenile folks.
Keep us posted for sure. I'm interested to see where it takes us. I see a huge need. That is not, I don't think anybody can deny that. So keep us abreast. Anything else?
Yeah, I have technology on the list. We had a meeting with the technology committee and our provider, and he has a couple of things that he's going to get us some cost information on. But one thing that we thought we ought to move forward with is enabling two-factor authentication. It's recommended all over the place with in terms of security. You won't have to do it every time you sign in, but occasionally, many of us are already used to this, where your phone gets sent a code, and you need to enter that as well as your particular password. So we'll be probably seeing that kick in here shortly. He was going to get some information on a couple of things for us that might be sort of added expense items, and one would be that our wireless points currently are managed by APC, and instead he'd like to add a box to our server room that would then run our wireless access points, so that to ensure that PC itself is not vulnerable to going down. And those of you who have seen the server room ever in its life know that it was quite a mess, and it's getting better and better. And so we've also talked about, just a little more cleanup there, adding a switch for some of our Ethernet cables, and continuing to deal with the sort of spaghetti in the sink thing in there. So it raised the question for us in the committee is if we could just, if these are couple $100 expenses, can we just tell Eric when he brings something like that, yeah, we should probably do it or not? Or does each one of those want to come before the board? Does the board want to create an appropriation or something for technology, small expenses, and then just have Mr. Huffman work it? I don't know how you're feeling about, when he comes and wants to add a switch, if every small item like that should come before the board, or if we ought to tackle this a little more efficiently.
I'm okay with there being funds available. If it's just a switch here or there, or small ticket items. Now, like security stuff, I would like to hear about that instead of just trying to log in off of an email and gather my way through it. But yeah, I'm fine with that. You guys want to make a line item? Would that keep it cleaner for you, Deb? That stuff can be spent out of, or how would you prefer that be done?
That's up to the board if you want to track these things separately. It's like a supply thing, it's like a technology thing. So, we pay money for email accounts. That's software. It's not a hard asset. You guys just tell me what you want to do. I mean, in the simple world, no one doodad's going to be more than $2,500. So we don't need a PO. If you think this overall project is going to exceed some amount of money, we could have a deeper conversation. But individual items, as long as it's under $2,500, doesn't need to have a purchase order. But obviously, it would not be great if somebody was consistently spending $2,400 and falling in just underneath that level.
Yeah, my concern was more like the committee itself has never really had like any authorization to, go out and spend money. I mean, it's just, we started off with a new building, knowing that we needed new equipment. We researched screens, we researched projectors, we got laptops. But at this point, the committee is moving into more of a sort of maintenance and keeping the system up to date and making small improvements. And we've never really just sort of had any conversation about how to spend out of it. So, I mean, I'm personally am just comfortable, as Deb says, if it's a small expense, it qualifies, but I didn't want you in the situation of signing a check going, where did this come from? Or, what's this all about? So.
Yeah, no, it's pretty self-explanatory and then could put into the notes or shot through an email. Hey, this is what's happening. Heads up. I'm so with that, just so it doesn't hold anything up from getting done in a timely manner.
Okay.
You okay with that?
Yeah, I would say keep it simple. I know government is not simple, but keeping it as simple as possible to alleviate any sort of stress and taking up time.
Yeah, it's always a little weird, when a trustee wants to spend money, it's sort of like all the other department heads have their budget or this or that, but when it comes to a general fund expense, what do we want to talk about and what do we not want to? And so as long as it's relatively small, we're just going to go ahead and let you know about these.
Awesome.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. We're going to move on to Township Administrator, Mr. Huffman.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to apologize to residents who may have been trying to live stream last meeting. I was unable to do that. I'm somewhat challenged technology wise, so I'm working through it, and we do have some viewers today, so I think that part of it is done. There might be some other behind the scenes things that I I'll need to work on. So I just wanted to apologize to the residents up front for that. The first item I have is a motion to authorize the township administrator to execute an agreement with Murphy Epson, the organization that just presented to us, for township branding in the amount of $25,645 using money from the JEDZ board. So this would be paid out of Fund 2901190317.
So moved.
I'll second.
And just kind of give a heads up, we did present this to the JEDZ board during their last meeting. They agreed to provide the funding for it. So it will be coming out of those funds.
Perfect. Ready for the roll?
Yeah, the township will be reimbursed. So just technically, we have to run it through our coffers first, but the JEDC board did agree to refund us that expense. So the roll call: Trustee Sierra, Trustee Jessberger, Trustee Sword.
Yes.
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 Moving on, motion to authorize township administrator to execute an agreement with Safe Built for township building services, which would be paid out of Fund 10001103110.
So moved.
I'll second.
And just maybe to touch base on this a little bit, I had reached out to a chief building official I used to work with, asking for other options besides our current provider, because we've been running into issues with them. Something as simple as trying to get a bolt change to a apartment complex has taken several weeks for that to occur. So we have reached out to Safe Built. We've had several meetings with them. They're relatively new to the area, but they have reputation elsewhere. So we were very happy with what we've heard that they can provide us. Plus, they will utilize iWorks, which is something Jonathan currently uses as well. So a lot of the transactions can occur in iWorks instead of having to manually deliver documents and things to our current provider.
Ready for the roll call?
Are we talking about a comparable fee schedule?
We are. It was within the same fee. A couple of them seem to be a little less.
Thank you.
All right, Trustee Sierra, Trustee Sword, Trustee Jessberger.
Yes.
Yes.
A motion to approve the updated job description for the Community Affairs Public Relations Specialist Administrative Assistant to the board.
I'll second.
This is basically Rachel's previous position.
Ready for the roll?
Trustee Jessberger, Trustee Sierra, Trustee Sword.
Yes.
The next one is the motion to authorize Township Administrator to advertise for Community Affairs Public Relations Specialist and Administrative Assistant to the board position vacancy.
So moved.
I'll second.
Are we listing this on Indeed? Any other
Indeed,
website?
I thought maybe the Ohio Township Association's website, obviously our website as well.
Perfect. Ready for the roll?
Trustee Jessberger, Trustee Sierra, Trustee Sword.
Yes.
Yes.
Then last but not least, just to let you know, I did submit my monthly report to the trustees early in the week.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
I'm going to move on to fire. Chief Fraley.
Hi, I just have the monthly report for this meeting that I believe I sent to you yesterday. a couple of highlights. The responses, we averaged 20 per day, which is the same as the previous month. West Side Medic 61 only had 9 incidents, and our first responder vehicle responded to 5 over there. Under training, our division hours were about the same as usual. The Clinton Township Training Center is currently conducting a fire safety inspector class with 7 students. And fire prevention officer conducted 23 inspections. And our community outreach, we assisted with the produce market, and with the CSFP program, we delivered 35 boxes of food to township residents, and we also delivered 4 free smoke alarms. And just in addition to that, our fire incidents are picking up quite intensely lately. So just want to put out to the residents, if you're in need of smoke alarms, if your smoke alarms are older than 10 years old, just reach out to the fire department, either through the website or through our Facebook page, and we'll get some free smoke alarms to you.
Is the Red Cross smoke detector thing still happening? Or are we getting them from the Red Cross, or?
Yes, that started back up about a month ago.
Good deal.
So we are restocked and ready to go.
Perfect.
Hey, Brian, real quick, if Cassidy would get a call up front on those, are you guys going into houses now are you able to put those in or no?
We are not. What we're doing is actually giving to them on the porch. But, you know, after this, maybe we can go back to that after COVID-19, but for now, we're not entering homes to install.
Okay, I just want to make sure, so we let her know.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to police. Chief Jones?
Just a few things here. The first time I'd like to request a resolution to surplus a 2015 Ford Explorer, VIN number 1 FM 5K 8A R8 FG B6 2112 to be sold. We will offer it as is to outside police agencies. Hopefully we can get that sold that way before we'd have to put it on Gov Deals or an auction site.
So moved.
I'll second.
Trustee Jesberger, trustee Sword.
Yes.
Yes.
Next thing I'd like to talk about, recently sent some information out to the elected officials and Mr. Huffman regarding electric vehicle program for police fleet. I've been in contact with the chief in Bargersville, Indiana. I've been doing some research over the last couple of months on this. I don't know if I can, if I hit the share, if I can bring this up. Did it work?
Looks good.
Okay. So in proposing this and in doing some research, like I said, there's 2 departments now in the United States that I'm aware of. I think there's a third that just started in Georgia. But Bargersville, Indiana, I've spoken with that chief and shared some information that he was able to give me. They have the Tesla Model 3, and I believe it's where's it at? Waterford, Connecticut, Westport, Connecticut, I'm sorry. It's also adopted the all-electric Tesla vehicles for their police fleet, and they're implementing this program. Some of the things we talk about reimagining police and functions of police. I'm also looking at reimagining some police equipment. The main cost being police vehicles next to our police officers. So those do become a big budget issue. And some of the things in talking with these other chiefs about the cost savings on a fleet could be put back into training, be put back into personnel. Budgets are getting tighter, so I'm looking at different ways to kind of shave some of those other costs off of our budget and save the taxpayers some money. But also in clean energy. I know across the country, a lot of folks have talked about clean energy. solar, electric vehicles, and doing this into a police fleet, I think would be a tremendous thing for Clinton Township, not only for the police department, our elected officials, and also our community to kind of put us on the map here in Central Ohio. Folks hear a lot about Columbus and smart cities. I'd kind of like to hear a lot about Clinton Township and how we're moving forward as well as a group. So in doing some research, some of the project would be Tesla. It's all electric vehicles. And again, utilizing the technology, clean energy, and saving our community money in the long run, but then allowing us to shrink our fleet size as well. When we talk about gas engines, we supply vehicles to our officers that idle a lot. We put miles on them. It's wear and tear on those gas engines. The repair bills that we get sometimes are challenging. And doing some research that I provided to the board already, the Tesla vehicle, it's an 8-year, 120,000 mile warranty. In talking with folks from Tesla, they have vehicles currently operating in New York and Los Angeles that have over 250,000 miles without a battery change or a motor replacement. Right now, our current vehicles, we usually get about 70,000 miles in 5 years out of, so this would definitely improve the length of our fleet service and also enable us to shrink the fleet because these cars could run for 2 shifts without a battery charge. In talking with our other chiefs about what they're doing with these, I did get, if I can bring up the next slide, there's a picture of the Model 3 Cruiser that's currently in use in Bargersville. So it's roughly about the same size as the Ford Taurus. There's no gas engine to it, so that front compartment is also what they call a frunk or a front trunk. So we have the ability to put police equipment in the front and in the rear trunk. Bargersville, I was able to get some cost comparisons from them. We're still kind of working on numbers for us locally here, but just shared some averages with the trustees, but we'll get into that later. But if you look at the cost comparison, they use Dodge Chargers as a gas-powered vehicle. Over a 6-year period, their rolling cost to operate that vehicle and purchase it comes out to about $76,722 in year 6. The Tesla Model 3 rolling cost, their initial purchase was about $39,900, $1,200 for a charging station, their cost of electric and insurance, and their rolling cost and savings over that difference between that and the gas-powered engine was about $20,628, and that's for one vehicle. And then they had a 1-year spreadsheet that they put together with the cost of electricity compared to gas, oil maintenance costs, and savings in that alone. And you can see that's from August 19th to August 2020 in those comparisons there. So our fuel cost is a little bit less than what they're showing this year. In 2020, our fuel cost averages between, I think, I lost here, between $125 and $200 a month per vehicles. Our average repair cost for the fleet here at the police department is roughly about $40,000 to $45,000, but I need to break that down by cruiser, and we'll take a comparison when I get some numbers put together for that as well. So how do I unshare here now? Just click out. Did I get the screen back? Okay. I'm learning as we go with this WebEx as well. So some of those costs we're still going to put together, but I just want to give folks a comparison of what Bargersville is able to do. I've looked into Otarma. There's no cost difference in an all-electric vehicle compared to what we use now. There's no requirement to bid the vehicles out, according to our legal counsel, Pete Griggs. And just on these, I've talked to a couple people about the electrical and the charging stations. That's kind of been an interesting issue. Out in California, there's a company, the EVC, that makes a station. It's about $65,000. There is federal grant money available to cover that cost, about 75%, if I'm correct there, Matt. Remember that? But I think that cost is still kind of high compared to what we would get on the back end of that. So we kind of put that off to the side. But it was kind of a neat piece of equipment. To get an initial dual charging station would be roughly, I've been quoted about $5,000. That would be less if we had the assistance of our road folks to help put in a concrete pad and run some conduit. But initially, we don't even need that. We can plug into a 240 outlet inside the building. As far as we're looking at those costs. So kind of a quick summary here. I don't want to go too much into it, but our Chevy Tahoe that we purchased last year, those cost for those about $37,224. A Tesla Model 3 for administrative or supervisors, those are about $47,000, and these prices are quoted from Tesla. The Model 3, which would be for cruiser use, it's kind of their small SUV, that cost us $51,000 for us. So there is a bit of a difference between that initial cost of the Teslas and what we currently use on state bid in the Chevy Tahoes. And again, rolling costs, we would have to put some numbers together for us locally here and how that would turn out for us. But I think in the long run, with the clean energy aspect, the progressive technology use, and the clean energy and saving money, I think it would be a very good program, not only just for Clinton Township, but our community as well, in tax savings, where we could use that money for other purposes. If anyone has any questions, I know it's kind of a short directed program, but there is a longer version if anybody's interested.
Excellent presentation. I think this is amazingly exciting. I do have a question though, with the technology in vehicle. Is there like any cost for updating the firmware or the software in the vehicle once we have it? Is there a plan for that? Has that been mentioned or questioned at all?
Yeah, there is no cost for that updating. I can't go into a lot of details. There's some engineering folks I've talked to, both at Tesla and Whalen, which is the emergency upfitters that make emergency equipment. Those folks are collaborating and talking. And if we get into this program, I would like to be able to say we would have a stakeholder position in going forward with integrating that police into the Tesla vehicles. As far as how that emergency equipment gets set up with the Tesla dash computer system, that would be a great idea, great step moving forward. I can't go into a lot of detail about that right now, but yeah, there's no cost going forward. They update those. There's also specific things that Tesla would do with us on the emergency vehicle side of things, that they do, patches over cloud to the vehicle itself.
Did you say that each car with their warranty, it was an 8-year warranty and 120,000 miles?
Yes, that's correct. The Ford Explorers we currently have are 3 years or 36,000 miles. So again, the only replacement parts, there's no oil changes. The brakes on the Teslas, I've been given rough numbers of about 80,000 miles before those would need to be changed because of the centrifugal issue of the electric motor itself slows the vehicle and stops it. You don't use the brakes per se. So the mechanical savings on parts alone in switching to an all-electric vehicle is a great savings to us. Like I said, and I think Deb can attest, we spend $40,000 to $50,000 a year in our repair bills. The second part of that, with that all-electric technology, some people have asked, well, what about the hybrid motors? Kind of some research that's been found, the hybrid motors that are coming out, those are actually more costly than just a gas motor because there's more components that fail and need to be repaired and maintained.
So does that mean that, I don't understand this stuff. Does that mean that we would get more use out of these cars? Like we would have these cars for a longer amount of time than what we normally do with the current vehicles?
So in some of the research I've been doing, that is the program, hopefully. Yeah, our vehicles right now, because of the idle time on the gas engines and the miles we put on them, those engines break down a lot quicker. On this type of a vehicle, the all-electric motor in it, dual motor, there's no idle time. So we can use these cars for 2 shifts at a time before we would need to charge them up. They get about 320 driven miles to them. So in the back end of that, when you have a gas powered engine, we're fueling that. It's idling for 8 hours when an officer's in it. So we have to have that time to let those cars cool down. Where this all electric, we could run that for 2 shifts and cut our fleet size by probably 4 or 5 vehicles. And yes, they would last probably. And again, this is all new in the police fleet service, but we could potentially have another 2 or 3 year lifespan out of these type of vehicles.
Would the officers have to go through training on how to like operate the vehicles and then like the devices inside?
So yeah, there would be some training, of course, because the stopping and go features are different from the gas powered engines. And talking to the other chief that's using these, they haven't had any issues. The emergency equipment, again, there's some things going on that I can't really go into detail right now about. But same type of setups that we have in our current cruisers would be in the Teslas. But yeah, the training, emergency vehicle operation, all those things take into effect, and Tesla would, of course, assist us with that as well.
Kind of an off the wall question. Not that we really have to worry about it with climate change and everything crazy. How do they do in the snow? Do we know?
The Model Y is a relatively new vehicle, and again, I have not talked to the chief in Connecticut where they probably get snow. Indiana, they haven't had any issue, but these are all-wheel drive vehicles, so I'm assuming they're a little heavier because of the battery. And all-wheel drive, they shouldn't be any different really than the Ford Taurus sedans that we had.
Perfect. I wasn't aware they were all-wheel drive, so that's even better. Good deal. I don't have any other questions.
So, Chief, I appreciate you all the amount of information that you gave us, and that I'd do it for the environment alone, but the fact that it's going to also end up, it looks like saving significant amounts of money over time is such an added bonus that it makes it very attractive. So, I would look forward to just sort of kind of reducing the narrative on the data, and maybe we could just see a really clear, as you work on that sort of local cost. We know their gas is more expensive, but take a looking at some of our own repairs. If we could put a little table together, maybe for next time that, or whenever you're ready, that has that just nice clear apples to apples kind of look, so that we can just kind of see how long it's going to take to just pay down that initial investment. I think it's really something that we ought to continue to consider. So thanks for your work on it so far.
Yeah, I'm going to reach out to some folks that have a little more knowledge in how to find our kilowatt hours price and some of the fuel costs we have in our maintenance bills. But yeah, when we can get that put together, I'm hoping fairly soon. And then the other good feature about this that I like is the police administrator. These vehicles can be obtained in 4 to 5 weeks, where I think there's departments across the country that are now trying to find Ford Explorers at the end of the year, and they're not available. And I'm being told probably June or so before that would happen. So and they're pretty, and I tell you, in talking with some of the fleet people with Tesla and some of those people in the know, they've been very easy to reach and talk to, and they are willing to participate in a meeting here going forward if we would like to have them join us at one of our meetings.
And I just wanted to add that we're pretty close to a Tesla facility. So we're lucky that, most townships are more rural than us. So, I'm a big fan of this, and that where they place the batteries in all hybrids, they tend to help with that question that Trustee Sword had about snow. And regular hybrids are very heavy because it's 2 engines. So sort of a lot for everybody to consider. I know we're all personally really fascinated by this. So your regular gas engine hybrids, some hybrids are plug-ins, and that Chief Jones has been talking about a full electric vehicle.
The only other thing I have, monthly report, I apologize for getting that out late today. The last 2 days have been pretty hectic with our office here. So we were able to get that put together today. So again, I know we like to get those out to the board members on Tuesday usually. Yesterday was a different kind of day for our strategy. So again, apologize for that getting in late, but we did get it out this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, if I may, Chief, I just want to encourage that maybe just a little bit of a summary of those once in a while for the community. I think it just might help folks understand what you have to deal with. When I looked at your report, it looked like about 40 citations on the east side and 5 on the west. We get those residents who feel like they never see anybody get a ticket for speeding, and yet, I mean, here's the documentation that happened. So I appreciate getting the reports, and I just, 58 investigations on the east side and 12 on the west. I think it's important that the community just kind of hear it every once in a while. So I just wanted to air it out.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. I get a little ahead of myself sometimes in trying to get all my information out. Last couple of days, I know we've assisted Mifflin Township. They had a shooting this morning around 7 o'clock. Yesterday, during all the election stuff, there was a home invasion that we assisted Mifflin with. We just had a DOA ourselves this morning here on Cleveland Avenue that officers have been tied up on. So things have been happening. I know when it comes to traffic, we have received some calls about, what are we doing about traffic? People are speeding everywhere. And it's occurring everywhere. That enforcement part of things, when we can get time to get out there, like I said, we've had some very serious calls that we've handled, and those take 2 to 3 hours sometimes. But I know, looking at our violation sheets, we've been hitting Walford pretty good around Lamont, Elmore area, Ferris Road. The officers, we had one middle of October there, it looks like 47 going down Walford. That's a 25-mile-an-hour zone. So we know that it's going on. Please bear with us. We're going to have folks out there, and we will continue to do what we do.
All right, we're gonna move on to the Public Works Department. Superintendent Flegg.
Thank you. Because I've been receiving a lot of phone calls, just a quick reminder to residents that leaf collection will continue through mid-December, and we cannot pick up leaves around curbside parked cars. It's been a major issue on a few of our streets.
Perfect. Have you guys run into anything with like brush or anything being put out that people got confused on dates?
There are a couple piles on Sale Road that were put out after brush collection ended. Weather permitting, I'd like to make one more pass around the township to collect brush, maybe after leaf season in December.
I'm aware that you guys sometimes have a little tag that you leave if someone sort of leaves something inappropriate in the brush pile or anything. Is there a tag or any notification that a resident gets that there was a parked car in the way? And I just wonder if it would be helpful for you to not have to take that phone call later that you missed my leaf pile. I don't know if we do that or not.
I don't think there's anything specifically on those door hangers about parked cars. I need to look at them again.
You have anything else, Corey?
The board should have the monthly report that I emailed to you on Monday.
Yes, sir. I'm going to move on to code compliance. It looks like he has no new business.
Correct.
Appreciations.
I would like to show appreciation to Fiscal Officer Steele. We had a rather large records request come in, and also to Cassidy up front assisted with that. So Deb has our records there that she's getting ready to send out to the requester. But wow, that was a project. Thanks, Deb.
Indeed so. Thank you.
I just wanted to chime in and thank folks who voted. It's a big deal. Of course, we all get excited with the presidential stuff, but good job for us participating in our government.
Absolutely. Record numbers at that. I'm going to move on to the other items section, and I think I'm going to do this a little bit differently this time. I'm going to read them both at the same time under one resolution. And I'm going to make a motion to enter into an executive session per ORC 121.22G4 for the purpose of preparing for or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment, and also to enter into an executive session under ORC 121.22G1 to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, compensation, or compensation of a public employee or official.
I'll second.
Trustee Jessberger, Trustee Fiera, Trustee Sword.
Yes.
Yes. See you ladies and teams.
Yes.
Everybody can go except for Mr. Huffman. Maybe stick around or be ready via phone. I'll call you if we need you. You're muted, but
I'll leave this on. When you guys come back, we'll
okay.
you.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Everybody here?
We are.
Yes.
We're back in session at 1:55 PM. And I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn. All right. See you all later.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.